All right. Yep, we are live. Just wait for a second. Okay. All right. So we are live. Welcome everyone who's joined in. We have Evan J. Law with us. Evan, thank you so much for taking out the time. Really
Sure.
excited to have an ex-USCIS officer here today. Um, we've asked people the doubts, and we have a set of questions, that we would really like your insights on. So just wait for a couple of seconds, and in the meanwhile, people who've joined in, you could just quickly tell me which visa category you're on or which visa category you're most interested to know about in this webinar, so that we get a sense of where exactly to take this discussion. Um, Kumar, which visa category? Probably you could tell us. Start with that. Okay, we have people on OPT.
Yeah.
All right. F1 STEM OPT. Okay. All right. So meanwhile, let me just quickly introduce this webinar and manifest law. So guys, thank you so much for joining in, everyone who's tuning in now. So we are doing this webinar with Manifest Law. Manifest Law is a US-based law firm, and they have a great team of experienced immigration lawyers who can help you with all your visa transitions, all your filings, change of status, anything that you need help with respect to the US visas. And today we have a senior immigration attorney, Evan J. Law. He's been an ex-USCIS officer, so we are really excited to learn from his experience. And he works with Manifest Law, and he's here to, answer all your questions and guide you on all the changes, especially the recent ones that have been happening. So, Evan, thank you so much. Probably you can just give us a quick introduction, and we can get started from there.
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to be here with you. I have time experience working in private practice for family-based firms, employment-based firms, and I worked at the Administrative Appeals Office within USCIS for 7 years. So I've handled a wide variety of cases. I even spent a 6-week detail in Kenya interviewing refugees. So I've kind of seen the gambit of immigration issues. The last visa type I adjudicated at the government at the AAO were extraordinary ability visas, which lead to the green card. So it's a multifaceted field. I will say I don't know everything. I don't know anyone that does know everything, but um, I'll I'll be happy to talk through the issues that are presenting themselves, where we're at, and a number uh, of these issues in particular with the H-1B changes and other things. But happy to be here with you.
Thank you so much. So we have few more people joining. So looks like H1, F1 OPT, STEM OPT. These are going to be our major visa categories. So Evan, before we take the questions, I think you can tell us about the most recent change which happened just yesterday with respect to the EAD approvals, and just brief us about the scenario and what we can expect about
Sure.
that.
So previously, someone with an H4 EAD, you would get an automatic extension. The government is now deciding that the automatic extension will no longer apply, and they've done this through what we call notice and comment rulemaking. So there's 30 days for people to give comments about this rule, but right now it's in place as an interim final rule. So basically, what that means is anyone who has applied to extend their work authorization or obtain it, uh, you're no longer going to get what used to be the 540 days automatic extension. The reason why those automatic extensions came into play is because the government was taking so long to adjudicate them. So I'm not really sure what all the background is behind this. It just barely came out, so I haven't read through the entire. It's quite lengthy. I doubt anyone wants to read the entire thing, but if it impacts you, you might want to look it up.
All right. So, does this apply to like all visa categories, or are there any specific categories which are going to be impacted by this?
So mostly what it states in the in the interim rule is it lists out all the categories that were given automatic extensions, and then it also lists the ones that will not be affected. And so there will be a certain number of these that won't be affected, but basically it applies to many different types.
Okay, you mean like the H4, H1, they're all going to be impacted by
Mhm.
this?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And what's the probability of this actually, like you said, passing through the entire process and being implemented?
Well, the way they go about it is they allow this period of time for the comments to come in, and then they address all of those comments in publishing the final rule. So it really depends on what types of comments they receive and how the government addresses it. And there's probably a lot going on behind the scenes as far as um, comments that they're going to be prepared to make as to why the government is improving systems so that the wait times won't take as long. It's really hard to know, what is going on completely behind the scenes as far as what the rationale was here. But a lot of the descriptions that you see in this interim rule go towards kind of vetting, just making sure security checks are in place. So um, yeah, it's hard to know really um, where this
Yes.
started.
So just have to sit tight and see how it goes from
Yeah,
here.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. And so after these 30 days happen, I'm sure you'll start to see more news articles coming out about it, people giving insights into it. And over that period of time, they will start addressing the comments, and so then we'll start to see what might have changed from it. They might decide, okay, some categories we're going to um, allow for the automatic extension as well. So um, yeah, I wouldn't be too concerned at this point because I mean, hopefully the ideal scenario is that the extensions or the applications get approved before you needed that automatic extension anyway. So really, we won't know, how problematic this is until we start to understand, okay, well, if we see the government did not start adjudicating these faster, well, then it will be a problem.
Yeah. All right. All right, Evan. So we can take a few questions. So uh, I'm in the US and I plan to travel to my home country for the first time for the visa stamping. Will those with approved H-1B have to pay 100K after the first visa stamping in their home country upon entry?
No, you won't. As long as it's already been approved, you can travel and then come back and you will be fine. Initially, when the H-1B changes came out, that was one of the things we were most concerned about as attorneys was whether people could travel to get that visa stamping. And at first we were telling people don't travel, but now it has been confirmed that you can do that.
All right. So if your H-1B petition is approved, you're safe, essentially.
Yes, that's correct.
All right. Okay. The next question says, if a non-US company with no office in the US wishes to apply for concurrent H-1B, then what is the procedure? And does it require an agent? And can you help with such H-1B filing?
Okay, this is a great question, and I had a similar question to this on a prior webinar. So if it's the same person, I apologize, but I would refer you actually to set up a consultation on this. And that this is a bit more complex. Um, so there are, yeah. So this one would be best to have a consultation about this. So with um, a non-US company with no office in the US. So oftentimes the question arises, well, what type of company is this? There's just a lot of details to that this would be a lot more beneficial to have a back and forth with an attorney. So I apologize that
Okay.
I'm leaving it at that.
All right. So, Guys, I would also like to tell you that you can also book a consultation with the lawyers at Manifest Law. In fact, some of you will also get a chance to book a free consultation. So we're going to tell you more details about this. So do stay tuned. And yeah, you definitely will have an opportunity to talk one to one with Eben or any of the other lawyers from Manifest. All right. We'll take the next question. This says, how will the new proposed H-1B wage level impact existing H-1B workers? And will employers lay off if they don't want to increase wage level for level 1 employees?
Okay, it's a good question. There are several things at play here. First, just adding some more details to this, what we're talking about with the the EAD extensions, that notice and comment rulemaking, that process is going on right now with the H-1B program with the wage levels. So a lot of this depends on how things evolve with that. Um, your question about how will that impact existing workers? Well, someone who's on an H-1B right now who extends their H-1B status, that's something that you can do now. It's not going to um, be impacted by this wage level change. What's happening really with the wage level changes is most principally this is going to go for new H-1Bs that basically the Trump administration is targeting or trying to incentivize people at a higher wage level to have an easier time to get the H-1B. And so those people have a higher likelihood of getting selected in the lottery. So as this evolves, there's a lot of pieces to this puzzle right now because there's litigation going on about the $100,000 fee. There's the notice and comment rulemaking that we're not sure what the comments are going to be and what changes the government ends up making. And I would say we're also likely to see uh, challenges to that as well. So the notice and comment rulemaking is established so that it gives people an opportunity to be heard, so that the goal is to essentially prevent lawsuits, right? But uh, once those things are implemented, lawsuits can still be filed. And so there's a lot of this that we still need to wait and see how the dust is going to settle. Now, your other question about how are the employers going to handle this? Well, this is a difficult thing to understand because each employer has different needs and things that they're looking at. A lot of employers are very worried about the potential of having to pay the $100,000 fee, right? Um, and so it's hard to say. I mean, that's a better question to essentially get on a call with your attorney and your employer to talk through some of those issues. But yeah, there's a lot of kind of volatility to this right now.
Right. But essentially, it comes down to the fact that if it's an existing petition, you don't have to worry about the weight changes. Right? All right.
Right.
The next question says, my H-1B got approved, but my current employer says we don't have a project right now. Can I transfer my H-1B? And he also says that I haven't stepped into the US yet. So if I transfer now, do I need to pay the 100K also for this? And this is a very common question we've got in our groups as well, that, with the transfer, what happens to the 100K?
Yeah, a very good question. Okay, so when we talk about, so we use the term change of status, because those are for people that are in the U.S. That want to change to another visa type. There's also the change of employers where someone's in the U.S. and wants to change to a different employer. So in this case, you're saying you haven't yet entered the US and you're trying to transition to a different employer. Is that correct? Is that how I'm
Yes.
understanding this?
So
Okay.
his visa is approved already,
Mhm.
right? But
So,
he stepped into the US and he wants to change
yeah,
his
so
employer.
the best approach would be for you to enter the US first, because, once you're here in the US, then you can do these change of status. You can change to another visa type or you can change to another employer. One challenge you may have is, you're stating that there's not a program for you, or if there's not employment for you, one challenge you may have is upon entry, if you're stopped and asked questions about your employer and the projects you're going to be working on, that could be a challenge. So, but the visa has been approved, so I suggest you come to the US as soon as you can, and see how things go. I mean, hopefully, another project could open up with the employer that you are working with. With this one, I would suggest, just having a call with the attorneys that have helped file the H-1B petition, just to make sure you're on the same page. But one thing I'll say just throughout, um, you know, immigration law in my mind is worth verifying and verifying again. Things change so much, as we see yesterday. Some of these changes took place with the automatic extension. I'm saying, that's not something that is as big of a change, obviously, as the $100,000 um, announcement with the H-1B process. But I would recommend speaking with your attorney that helped with that. But if you can get to the U.S. as soon as possible, that's what I would encourage.
How risky is it at immigration, like at port of entry, to enter without a project, but with a valid visa?
Well, it's one of those things that we don't know exactly what things trigger someone to pull you aside and say, "Let's go have an interview about this."
Yeah.
So it's definitely not something that you just want to volunteer talking about. If they, I always tell clients of mine, when any immigration officer asks you questions, answer their questions truthfully, but just answer the questions that they're asking you, right?
Yeah.
In this scenario, it's not a good sign that there's not a project for you, and so I would have some communications with your employer to better understand, well, what are the possibilities? I'm coming. The visa's been approved. What can I do uh, on this valid H-1B that I have, that allows me to be in compliance with this. So you definitely need to be honest through the whole process, but I would try to find a way to get here, and to be communicating both with your attorney and your employer on making sure you're aligned with the way the H-1B was filed.
Got it. And Evan, along this lines, we've also got a bunch of questions around, extensions, transfers, tying it back to the 100K. So, as a general rule, does 100K apply to extensions, transfers, or
No,
not?
no, it's only going to apply to um, new H-1Bs. Um, so extensions, um, changes to other status won't be impacted. The one I would say that we still want to make sure we want to see the dust settle a little bit more is changes to employers. So I would say continue to monitor that. Certainly, in a consultation with one of our attorneys, we can dive into those things further. But I'm interested to see how a lot of the litigation plays out. I mean, that's for the 100,000 fee. It's very interesting. If you, I don't know that people want to read this, but if you read the complaint in the lawsuit, it really gives some clear guidance into where the H-1B program started, what its purpose is, and basically lays out a pretty strong case for what they're fighting against.
All right. So, I think the next question also similar, that I've got a IS 797 extension to 2028. Is it safe for me to go to India nowadays for stamping? I think that would be
Yes,
yes, right?
mhm,
It is
yes,
okay. Oh,
that's correct. It's been approved.
yeah.
You're free to travel and come back, and there won't be issues for you.
All right. I think the next question is about the EAD, the automatic EAD. So Anushri wants to know that What about L2 visa holders? Will they also be impacted by this, the no automatic EAD?
I believe so, and I'm looking at the document now, and so give me just one second to look at that. Um, so what they've done in the document is they've talked about all the categories that generally can have the automatic extension or that would have it. Um, yeah, it looks like L1 is going to be impacted. With what I would suggest with any of these, because this is so new, I would recommend that you also just maybe check back on some links we can provide after this webinar, just to we'll update you all on some of the things that that I'm not 100% sure on. So I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think it is impacted
Okay.
as well.
All right. The next question from Jay, he says, I'm planning to go to India for H-1B stamping for the first time after 7 years. He came to the US initially on F1 visa. Should I expect any difficulties because I haven't returned earlier? So basically, he's going to come back after 7 years to India.
No, so when we're talking about the after 7 years, I assume that you have an I-140 pending. Is that correct? Um,
Um,
so, so are you extending the seventh year?
so I
Is
think he was on a F1 visa and he's moved to H-1B, but the
oh
stamping he's coming now.
my
He's not
apologies.
got it
Okay,
stamped. Yeah.
and so this is the first 3 years of the H-1B?
Uh, yeah, looks like it. Yeah. 5 years
Okay.
and now, yeah, the first H-1B. Yes,
Okay.
correct. Yeah.
Yes, there's no issues traveling. The only thing that would be an issue if you've already gone 6 years on H-1B, and then you're at that stage where you would need an I-140 approved to allow you to extend that seventh year, and you can continue to extend that until you get your green card. If you're in that scenario, it'd be best to talk to an attorney. But in this case, yes, you can travel, you can get the stamping, you can come back. It doesn't matter that you took a while
Okay.
um, to travel.
All right. So he probably will have to explain about why he couldn't travel if asked. Maybe, his work
Y-
timelines and things like that.
Yeah, yeah. Always be prepared to answer whatever explanation you have. This is why. I mean, oftentimes I understand why people are concerned about things like that, but in essence, you just explain the circumstances you're in. People obtain the H-1B and they stay here a long time and don't travel, so they don't ever get the H-1B stamp in their passport. That's possible. So, yeah, I don't think you should be concerned about that. I
All
I
right.
say that, and then but I can imagine if I were in your situation, I would still be I can understand your concerns, is what I'm saying.
Just unnerving to go to India after 7 years for a visa process for a
Right.
long time.
Well,
Yeah.
especially after these things have changed, I
Yeah.
imagine anybody is nervous to travel. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. So this question says I have an active H-1B with stamping till 2026, but I got laid off. And during the 60-day grace period, I applied for B2 visa, which is approved, got a new job offer, and now I need to transfer the H-1B. So he wants to know any issues with it and what are the main things to take care of.
Well, it's a unique scenario. You can do change of status, just how you can do a change of status from an F1 visa to an H-1B. You can do a change of status from this to an H-1B, another H-1B. What I caution you with this, though, is this would be really helpful for you to have a consultation with an attorney, and perhaps two attorneys, to get a second opinion on this. And the reason for this that I'll just state is when this H-1B change first came out, one of the things the government had said was if anybody tries to do a workaround, meaning talking about for people overseas, they tried to do a workaround and come in on a B1 or B2 visa and then do a change of status, they were disallowing that. And after a while, they walked that back because it didn't make sense with a lot of the things that they were saying. And so what I'm saying is, it seems like you should be able to do that fine, but I would definitely recommend that you have a consultation with an attorney to just make sure everything is lined up, and especially as we continue to see more guidance coming out. Here's one thing I'll say just generally, during the times I worked for the government, we never had changes like this on this scale happen when I worked for the government. But there many times I did see issues when issue things would come up, and supervisors and branch chiefs would say, wow, we've never seen this before. How do we deal with this? So there's a lot of uncertainty still going on in the government, I imagine. And it would take some time to figure out how these things apply. Where I said before, and you all know, immigration law is so multifaceted. Uh, the greatest minds can think through policies and procedures, and then all of a sudden they realize, oh no, we haven't addressed this scenario. So this is one of those that it seems like you should be able to do this fine, but because there was that caveat before, there might be some reluctance with some officers, even if this is a training issue. There might be some officers that say, wait a second, I didn't think people were allowed to do this. So but anyway, I think you should be able to do that.
But this will be a new stamping, right? Like you'll have to get the visa stamped again, the H-1B, even
So
if the previous one is valid.
So with this one, so it depends on, I forget, was travel part of this question as well?
So he
So we're changing,
to B2
change to a B2 visa
within the US,
and
basically.
then wants to
Yeah.
change to the H-1B, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
so, yes, you can change to the H-1B, and then um, if you'd like to have the stamp, if you need to travel, then you can travel with the H-1B once it's approved to get that stamping. So yes, that will be fine. Or you could just stay in the US until perhaps you decide to move to a different visa type or something like that.
Okay, got it. So next question is about L1, and Rag wants to know what is the latest L1 adjudications at USCIS and consular interviews.
What is the latest about L1s?
L1A particularly,
Uh,
adjudications at USCIS and consular interviews.
okay, I'm not aware of any direct changes about L1s. I think I don't fully understand the question, but it seems like you're kind of asking a general question of whether
Yeah.
I know of any new
Anything
changes
different?
or updates.
Yeah,
Does that?
in L1A
So
particularly.
yeah, I haven't heard of any. Um, it it yeah. So I would just say keep monitoring
Yep.
changes that you become aware of in immigration law. So we generally post updates pretty soon after they come out, so you could follow us on social media or on the websites. But we haven't seen there doesn't seem to be the concern in the government um, for with L1s like there is with this H-1B issue.
So with L1 blanket interviews, we see in India the rejections going up this year, like quite significantly compared to individual. So any insight on that, why the blanket rejections have shot up?
Yeah, good question. And unfortunately, I don't have any insights on that. I apologize. But what I will do is I'll provide some guidance after this call. Perhaps tomorrow we'll give you some more thoughts on that from uh, some other colleagues that we have that handle those issues a lot more.
Sure, please.
Yeah, yeah, it's hard for me to
All
say,
right.
but hopefully there's not a trend. I will say when I worked for the government as well, sometimes there were unspoken trends where people at times would say, "Okay, we're tightening things up in a certain way," and I would just say, "Wait a second, I haven't seen any policy changes on that." And so, I would I would say um, let's wait and see what changes come down the line. I think it is challenging oftentimes to just hear about denials that are happening because
Mhm.
there's a number of reasons that could be underlying them too.
Right. All right. I think the next one is an interesting question. He wants to know which visa option is better, H-1B or O-1. Additionally, how can O-1 help in building a portfolio for a EB-1 application?
Okay, so I'll jump into that one mostly because I get excited talking about EB1 cases.
Yeah.
I'll answer all of it, but O1s can act as a stepping stone towards EB1s, like I said. The major difference between an O1 and an EB1 is that with the O1, you need to meet 3 out of 8 requirements that go towards showing you've risen to the top of your field and you have a certain level of recognition in your industry. The EB1s require 3 out of 10 requirements, but it's a higher bar. Um, and the main difference is if for the EB1 to that leads to the green card, the regulations talk about an initial evidence, and then this court case called Kazarian determined that what that means is you have to not only meet the 3 requirements, but you have to then have the officer do a final merits analysis where they view the totality of it. So with the L1, you don't have to do that. You just have to meet 3 out of the 8 requirements. There are things like having published material about you and the work that you do in your field, or having a high salary, or having published scholarly articles in your field, um, awards that you've received, uh, that type of thing that shows you kind of have this widespread recognition. So, oftentimes, what I suggest to people in like an F1 or an H-1B status that are looking towards the O1, oftentimes I tell them, view this as though you're basically building up your career more. We're all on this career path where you're trying to position yourself well with your employer. You're trying to do what you need to request raises at the end of the year, that kind of a thing. And so the portfolio building aspect of this is basically doing that to continue to show that you're rising to the top of your field. But with the O1 and the EB1, the additional component is the recognition in the industry. And so you want to start looking at what are nationally recognized awards that I could be uh, trying to prepare for? What are ways that I can get my name out there more, or doing podcasts or publishing? A lot of those things can lead to um, recognition in the field. They may not meet the exact definition of the regulations, but they might lead to other things that do. You can also meet this by reviewing the work of others, things like that, becoming an editor for journals or things like that. So you don't know if I answered all of those questions. What were the questions at the beginning? Sorry, I went on and on about EB ones and O ones.
So what you answered is how O1 can essentially fulfill some criteria for EB1 as well, right? That's
Right.
the one.
Yeah.
Okay. He also wants to know which one is better, H1B or O1 between the two.
Well, yeah, it's a good question because it really depends on what your background is and what your experiences have been. If, many times in positions for like engineers, sometimes it's harder to get that recognition in the field as it would be for like a researcher or someone in a more academic type field. So it really depends. The H-1B um, has a lot of positives with it in terms, like I was talking about earlier, where you can get to that 7th year extension. I know that seems like forever, but especially for people from India, sometimes the wait time for like an EB2 priority date to become current so they can get their green card, that's a very long wait time. And so by getting to that 7th year extension, that allows you to just keep extending that. So that's a very positive. But on the other hand, if you can make it to the O1 and then the O1 helps you get to the EB1, you can get your green card much sooner. So uh, it's one of those things that, in my view, you don't lose anything by trying. I mean, it definitely um, takes a lot of your time and resources to move towards that, but you're also advancing your career. So I would say it's definitely worth working towards an O1. And then once you have an O1, it's definitely worth working towards the EB1 because you've established much of the same criteria. You just kind of need to do it at a higher level with the EB1. So
Yes.
hopefully that answers that.
And one can do both, right? You could do H1 and O1 both.
Yeah, you can do
Right.
both,
You have to really choose.
and the O1 is also it also has a dual intent component to it. Not quite as straightforward as the H-1B, but it's still functionally the same that you can be working towards your green card or have an I-140 filed while you're on the O1.
Right. So Manifest Law also gives you an option to have a free consultation for O1 visas. So you need to, fill out a quiz, and if your profile aligns with this, you can request for that free consultation. So we will be sharing, details of that and the link for that as well in just a bit. Um, all right. The next question. Okay. So he wants to know that he's changed his visa from L1 to H1B this year, and the H-1B petition is still in process. So he's still in the US, but eventually he'll go to India for the stamping. So is there any red flag or anything particular to consider in such scenarios?
No, you've already had the H-1B petition filed, and so yeah, there's no issues, and it's a change of status as well. So even if you did all of that after these changes took place, you'd still be able to have the approval fine and then transfer, or I'm sorry, travel overseas to get the stamping. There won't be any issues.
All right. Another question related to L1. Can a L1B visa holder work from a different state? For example, in the petition, it's mentioned Illinois, but I want to work from another location. Is it allowed?
Good question, and I think as you saw earlier, I'm not an L
Yeah.
visa expert.
Right, right. Sorry, I missed
I
that. Yeah.
apologize. So
Yeah.
it is a specialty occupation visa, similar to an H-1B. So I would, yeah, let's have in this one. What I would say is you should be able to get a free consultation if you reach
Yeah.
out to one of our attorneys. You can
Yeah.
say, well, he didn't have the answer I needed for the L-1B. Yeah, I will refrain from just guessing
Yes.
on that.
Okay.
I don't know. So I would
All right.
have you reach out to one of our attorneys.
No
Thanks for your
problem.
patience.
Circling back to the H-1B, so this is regarding the 100K fee. So we got a lot of questions about the exemptions, and there were also questions about people who are in nursing, healthcare professions. So any clarity yet on who is exempted from this? Because I think when the rule came out, there was a lot of kind of confusion, right, about the exemption. So has there been any
Yeah.
progress with respect to that?
I think we're going to see a lot more information come out about those because I know, places like hospitals have made big issues out of that. And so there have been statements made that people in those occupations, um, they're going to be well suited for the exemption. Basically, anytime there's a national interest exemption, they look very similar in what the requirements are, and so I would suggest just continue to monitor that for people who need those exemptions. Um, but that will be one that really it's helpful to have an attorney preparing that just so that you line everything up that you need to meet the exemption.
But there's a good chance they might come under this, right?
Yes.
Keeping in mind the
Mm,
previous trends,
mm,
essentially. Okay.
yes.
Are you okay with taking questions on H4 related to
Uh,
H4?
yeah, we can take questions on H4. I'll tell you when I don't know something. So,
Right.
one thing I did want to say about this exemption aspect, even with the H-1B, one $100,000 fee, USCIS has recently come out and said there is a way that people can even try to get around that exemption by showing one of four things, and we can put this up on
Mhm.
our website a bit later. But it's very similar um, to a national interest exemption type of a thing.
So this applies to everybody, not just
Yeah,
healthcare workers. If you
mhm.
have these four criteria, you could still, like one of the four, you could apply
Yeah,
for the exemption.
yeah.
All right. So the question on H4 is that she's working on H4 and holding PhD. I know she cannot earn money with job, but can she apply for university and be eligible for stipend for research project on a H4?
Okay, so um, yeah, good. This is a good question, and this is one where I would say let us get back to you on that.
Okay.
What I think um, would be best is if you could just continue to follow um, basically this, um, and afterward we'll make sure that we respond to
Yeah.
a variety of these questions. So my apologies. That's one that I'm going to have to defer on.
All right. Um, I think this one you already answered, Evan. Are there going to be lawsuits expected with respect to H-1B? I think some have already been filed, right?
Yeah, yeah. Some have already been filed, and at AILA, it's really American Immigration Lawyers Association. There's a message board where attorneys can post comments and things. And so earlier I was monitoring that and just seeing different comments attorneys were making. So yes, these are being filed, and there haven't been issues for a good number of these that have gone forward.
All right. The next one is about H-1B. So my current H-1B will be withdrawn on 12th of November, and that's the last working day due to a layoff. And planning to change to a dependent status, L2. So with the government shutdown, uh, how will this pan out? Like, will there be any consequences on the change of status due to government shutdown?
Well, the government shutdown is most impacting the Department of Labor filings. Right, and so, with something like an initial H-1B, that labor condition application, the LCA, that would be on pause because the Department of Labor is not open. Like, you can't even go to their website. With something like this, it you're doing a change of status petition with the USCIS. So the USCIS is open, so there shouldn't be any issues.
Okay. So the government shutdown doesn't impact change of status. It impacts essentially things related to the LCA, the petitions, all
Right.
of that.
Yeah,
Okay.
so when we say it doesn't impact change of status, what we're really, I think what would be more specific to state is it's not going to impact anything that is only needing to be filed directly with USCIS,
Okay.
just because USCIS is still open.
Okay. Got it. Because we also got a lot of questions around the government shutdown. Any other insights on this? Any timelines? Anything more that we can
Well,
expect
you know,
to?
I was working for the government through a few shutdown scares, and
Mhm.
I'll just give you some personal insights. I mean, my
Yeah.
wife was flipping out every time, and so my heart goes out to these people that are affected by this. Um, I will say it's just it's difficult to try to guess when it's going to be resolved. I am still surprised that it hasn't been resolved already. So, um, yeah, I don't have any other insights, to give on that other than the USCIS is a fee-based agency. So even when I say my wife was flipping out about it, it didn't last very long because I said, listen, we're able to keep working as it's a fee-based agency.
All right. So no particular timeline, but again, we'll have to just sit tight and see how it goes.
Yeah, yeah, it's just hard to assess it. I thought it would have already been resolved at this point. So I would just say watching the news, keep following what the discussions are. I know there have been very heated discussions in Congress
Yep.
recently, so hopefully it gets resolved very soon.
So there are many people, like I think previously also somebody asked, whose petition is pending, basically, filed sometime in June. So they have to wait essentially, right? Nothing else
That's
be done.
yes. So the
Okay.
petition is pending with USCIS. You just have to wait until it's approved. Um,
All
Things may have slowed down on USCIS's level in a degree because the well, it's hard to say, but sometimes there's time that is taken for things to be reshuffled around, or things that were um, dependent on the Department of Labor for some reason. Um, that might have taken USCIS more time to set those aside and things like that, more logistical type of things. But I don't think it should really affect things in a huge way.
right. The next question is also regarding O1. So he says physicians in shortage specialty but can't use H1 due to the 100K. I think the employer is not ready because of that. Have a lot of publications, citations, judging, peer review, plus US both certified. Can I apply for O1 or EB1A? Which would be a
Definitely,
better?
and I would recommend you apply for the O1 first, just because it has that lower threshold and it allows you to continue to do kind of this portfolio building, or building up your recognition in the industry to be able to qualify for the EB1A. So
Mhm.
definitely, yes. The the approval rates for O1s are holding at a very high level. The EB1 approval rates have dipped significantly recently, so we're still waiting. We'll have to see how things look as time goes on, but yes, definitely, I would work towards filing for that. Do a change of status to the O1, and you should be in a good position to go forward.
So with publication, citation, judging, I think he's in a good position to start. So
Yeah.
AP,
So
feel free to reach
yeah,
out.
so the
Yeah.
more of these criteria that you can meet. So you have to meet 3 out of the 8. The more that you meet, the stronger your petition is.
Mm.
And so, but that's one reason why, you need to have a good consultation with an attorney to understand which are the ones you're solidly meeting. But the yeah, Wh- what you don't want to do is meet 2 out of the 3, and the third one is kind of shaky. So, but that's why, how in a consultation we'll be able to figure out um, whether you meet that third criterion strongly enough to move forward,
Yeah.
or what steps you could take to get to that level.
All right. So AP, feel free to reach out for the consultation, and I think Manifest should be able to help you with that. I think this is a similar question, but just clarifying it one final time that somebody who's already in the US but now moving to H1. Previously, they were on a different visa, like an L1 visa. They're moving to H1 for the first time, but they're already in the US. So, does the 100K apply for them? Yes or no?
No, so the change of status does not apply,
Mm.
so
Okay.
it will be fine.
So, anybody who's within US, I think there are few people here in the situation. So, 100K will not apply to them, even if it's a first time H1B, right?
That's right.
Okay. Um, H4 and H4 EAD applications are still in process, and I have a valid EAD till Jan 2026. What is my employment situation from February?
Well, so you were granted an automatic extension before then. Now I'm just pulling up this document again. These changes just came out. So the title of this is Removal of the Automatic Extension of Employment Authorization Document. So my understanding is that you had the automatic extension and you will still be able to continue with that. That said, this just barely came out. So I'm pretty confident in what I just said, but you can trust what I said, but verify it. Um, and hopefully we can put out some more details about that soon.
All right. Um, okay. So I think there are a couple of questions which were sent to us apart from this. So uh, one of them, uh, is it okay to take questions on R1? R1 visa?
Uh, I worked with some colleagues at the
Yeah.
in the government that handled R1, so I'm
Yeah.
curious, but
Yeah.
you all have been very patient to hear my response of,
Yeah.
I may refer you to someone else, but sure, I'm curious, what do we have with
Okay.
R1?
So the question is that he's working in a non-profit faith-based organization, but his role is not towards the ministry. It's more of the IT and the ops, basically. So are such profiles eligible for R1, or do you have to be directly involved with the ministry for an R1 visa?
Yeah, okay, so he's doing that, he's on the R1 visa
No,
now.
no,
Oh,
he's interested in applying. He's
he's
on,
interested in applying
yes.
for it.
The
Okay.
organization is a non-profit faith-based organization, but his role is on the IT and the ops. It's not in the ministry, basically, not
Yes.
towards pasture duties. It's not in the ministry. So, do they still come under R1, or will it be a different
Yes,
category?
good question. And so I thought I could jump into that, but I think that it's not going to be allowed.
Yeah.
Um, Generally speaking, the religious worker visas are very much tied to advancing the tenets of the faith.
Hmm.
So that yeah, that's another one that we can get back to you on, but my sense is that that won't work.
Okay. All right. So, so if he's already on STEM OPT, then he should be looking at H1, O1, these
Ye
categories.
Yes, I would look to, whatever other, options seem to
Yeah.
line up
Yeah.
with your background. It
Because,
certainly, when as I talk about all these details and just well, you're seeing all the multifaceted aspects of immigration law, but from these
mhm,
questions, certainly, I would suggest that you don't foreclose the option of that. I've seen things where, certain unique things can happen, can take place. I did a very unique L-1B visa once that it took quite a bit of strategy to line it up just how it needed to go, but it did work. So I wouldn't foreclose the thought of it. You have a discussion with an attorney about that, but it seems to me that it would be a good idea to start looking towards other visa types that align better with your
yeah.
background.
Also, I think many of the non-profit organizations will not apply for H1 from what we have seen. So, probably a good idea to explore other
Mhm.
alternatives as well, right? Okay.
Agreed.
Even we have a lot of students here and they want to understand some tips, anything that you would like to share for students who are looking at a consular process in India essentially. And some of them are at the undergrad level. So, any insights for them? Any latest updates?
Yeah, good question. So, um, the student visa, oftentimes what we see in immigration law is, as you're very well aware, is the student visa transition to H-1B and then H-1B to having the employer file a labor certification requesting that they obtain their green card. And that's a very long process. It can be complex because in some ways it holds you in that certain occupation and kind of limits your opportunities. So whatever you can do to kind of have I don't know, just a high vision for developing yourself to the point where you can apply for an O1 visa. That would be ideal because that gives you more flexibility, more freedom. So you can do things like coming over on an F1 and then potentially if you've really done some remarkable things throughout uh, your your studies, you know, you have some really good networking that's going on. You've been able to accomplish some amazing things. You could start positioning yourself to apply for an O1 at that point. But oftentimes the H-1B is kind of that intermediary visa. So what I would suggest is you want to I mean, do things that are true to yourself, but also as you learn about these visa types, just understanding that, you know, if you publish scholarly articles, um, target the journals that have high recognition in the field. You know, in other words, I would suggest that you don't try to do what some students try to do out of high school, which is when they put things on their resume, they're basically doing like extracurricular activities just to check a box, just so they can look like they've accomplished a lot more things. You want to do things that really substantively uh, move you forward in your career, things that you're passionate about, things that are going to impress, um, you know, employers, but really it's also, um, you know, giving you better preparation to move forward in your career. So I don't know if that helps, but um, yeah, in essence, a lot more opportunities are can be opened up to you if you can view yourself as trying, you know, trying to take that path that establishes you as an expert in your field, and
Mhm.
that gets you the recognition and um, kind of that result from networking.
And you can do all this during the undergrad years in the US, essentially work on research projects.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
yes.
research projects, collaborating with professors,
Mhm.
you know, looking at universities that are highly reputable in your field. You know, a lot of times I would get EB1 cases, and I would see where someone went to school, and all of a sudden you know, I'm starting to have a different viewpoint of, oh wow, this person graduated from Cornell, or you know, some of these things. It's a visa type that is very much dependent upon how impressive your background is, and so, but that's how the economy works as well. You're trying to impress employers, so I would basically just set your sights high and move towards them.
All right. Okay. I think we have a couple of more questions before we wrap up. So, um, I'm currently on H-1B and filing for an extension in April 2026. And I'm planning to travel to my home country around May, June 2026, which will also be the first time when I'm going for the stamping. So, is it advisable to travel while the extension is being processed? That's part one. Part two, does the 100K rule apply? I think no, right? 100K wouldn't apply for extension.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
100K won't
Yeah.
apply.
Yeah.
What I would suggest is, I wouldn't suggest you travel while it's pending. So I would file the extension. Uh, be, yeah, I would wait until that's approved if you can.
Yeah.
Um, I know you were planning to travel at that point. What I would suggest is just as it gets closer, I know you want to buy tickets as early as you can, but
Mhm.
I would suggest that you speak with an attorney before then and see what changes might have taken place, and find out at that point. But at this point, my thoughts would be wait till the extension is approved before you travel.
All right. And also, I think too soon to plan right now because we don't know till 2026 what happens with so
Yeah,
many
yeah,
things.
there's just a lot of moving parts to
Yeah.
this, and, yeah, so I would wait.
All right. Evan, I think we'll take one last question. Can O1 and EB1A be filed simultaneously if the profile is strong enough?
Yes, my question would be why you would wanna go that route, especially if you did, premium processing. So with premium processing, you're going to have a decision within 15 business days. I could see an argument for, filing an O1 through regular processing and then later on doing an EB1 by premium processing.
Mhm.
Uh, there's several different ways you could go about this, but in my view, if you are already at the level that you and an attorney you work with thinks that you can qualify for the EB1 level, I'd say I'd say go all in for that. I say that, and then now I'm going to give you another viewpoint on this. So here's my thought process overall. If you go all in for trying to get the EB1 and you don't make it, well, you can turn around and file for an O1 and it's not going to impact you.
Right. Yeah.
If you do this another way, which is you file for the O1 first and heaven forbid that's denied, and you've got an EB1 pending as well, the um, that puts you in a more difficult spot to have the EB1 approved. It's not impossible, but there, as an adjudicator or former adjudicator, when you see uh, a decision has been denied, it's hard to not let that affect you. You start thinking, well, why was it denied? What overcomes it now? So I would suggest that you consider whether you meet that threshold to do the EB1A. But the safest approach would be to go the O1 route because, y- um, so I guess here's what I'm saying is these are opposites. So I see pros of both sides. If there, I guess what I'm saying is this: if there's concern that you just don't think you rise to the level of meeting the EB1, uh, and I'd say, a good amount of concern there. What I would suggest in that case is go for the O1 first. But if you're at the level that is just, if and your attorney are thinking you are going to meet 4 or 5 out of the criteria and it's just a really strong case, that's when I would suggest going the EB1 route straight away and then going to the other one if it didn't work. But generally speaking, I think I would suggest most people go with the O1. It's got a much higher approval rate.
Yeah.
It does allow you to continue building yourself up uh, to be able to meet the EB1 standard. So I think that's what I would defer to. But sorry for giving you
Yeah.
both. I mean, going back and forth on
And also,
both
I
of them.
think it just helps you feel more confident about the process, right? Once you get O1 done, it just puts you in a better perspective as to what
Yeah,
more to achieve
yeah,
for
and
you.
from
Yeah.
an officer's perspective, when they see that the O1 is approved, they already start thinking, okay, they've already met 3 of
Yeah.
these criteria
Right.
at
Yeah.
some level. Uh, You know, but you have to be aware that there are a lot of people that have an O1 approved, but they still aren't able to get an approval for the EB1A. So that's why I say it can be kind of like a stepping stone toward the EB1A.
Mm.
But it also, by preparing for that, you get used to what the criteria are like, and then after once the O1's approved, continue to do those types of things that even establish you even more as an expert in the field and with more recognition. The recognition is the key component. The sustained acclaim needs to be over a certain period of time, a few years at least. The USCIS has become more reasonable on that since I worked for the government, but still, you need to show significant recognition in the field at a national level, um, and at least over 3 years or more. So, yeah, just some thoughts on that. But you can also have, I mean, it's worth having even a couple consultations with attorneys,
Yeah.
as every case is just a little bit different. I mean, it's one of these things that it's not a one size fits all type of an issue.
Right. So I think the link is also right here in the chat. So for all of you who are here, if you would like to request for a consultation with Manifest Law, you can use the link that we've just posted. And like Evan has been saying, this will allow you to have a better perspective of your situation, what you need to do right now, and also kind of have a plan and a strategy of how to go forward from there. Evan, thank you so much. I think a lot of questions today, so thank you so much for being so patient with all of
Sure,
them. Any
sure.
parting thoughts?
Yeah, no,
Anything?
I appreciate your patience, and any other follow-up questions
Yeah,
will, I'll send some documentation for you, and if you wouldn't mind posting
sure.
about those
Yeah.
other things, that would be great.
Yes, definitely. We'll get back on everything, the things that we couldn't cover today. Any last thoughts, any predictions? What do you think is going to happen next from
Yeah,
where we are?
the only thing is I would just suggest that you kind of keep an open mind about, I guess, and I'm a very optimistic person, and so I would suggest recognizing, there are a lot of very good people working on these things behind the scenes with the government. I know there have been a lot of policy changes and things, but there's also a lot that can come out from the litigation aspects of this. So I would say just keep an open mind about how things evolve and continue to develop yourself as best you can in your industry and for your career path going forward. And we'll be here to answer any questions or give you any guidance that we can. And yeah, I would just say um, keep moving forward.
All right, great. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, we'll be putting out more content on all of these categories. So do stay tuned, and yeah, we'll keep you posted.